Hello dear students, please come back to the class on project management. In the last class, we have learnt about meaning of the term project, definition of the term project, important characteristics of a project, basic characteristics we have learnt, and even about other characteristics of a project we have studied. Now today, let us move on to the next important aspect, that is classification of projects. Classification of projects help us to make graphical representation of different kinds of projects, and graphical presentation of projects help us to analyze the characteristics of projects in a better way. And there are different types of projects. Say for example, quantifiable projects, non-quantifiable projects, new projects, modernization projects, expansion projects, diversification projects, capital intensive projects, labor intensive projects, large scale projects, medium scale projects, small scale projects, and so on. All types of projects require capital investment. You know that a project is an approval for capital investment to develop facilities to provide goods and services. A project may be undertaken to take up different types of activities. Say for example, a project may be undertaken to develop new goods and services, or a project may be undertaken to expand the plant capacity of the existing project, or a project may be undertaken to increase the productivity of goods and services. Now let us discuss about different kinds of projects in detail. First classification, that is classification made by Little and Marles. They have classified projects into two types, quantifiable projects and non-quantifiable projects. Quantifiable projects are those projects in which benefits or the output or the returns that can be derived from the project can be measured in quantitative terms. You can measure the benefit or the output that you are deriving from the project in quantitative terms. For example, industrial projects, wherein you can measure the quantity of goods produced in quantitative terms. Similarly, projects generating electricity generation projects, or power generation projects, or mineral production projects are examples for quantifiable projects, because you can measure the benefits derived from the project in quantitative terms. But there are certain non-quantifiable projects. These projects are service oriented. You cannot measure the benefit, returns, or benefits of the project in quantitative terms. Say for example, projects undertaken in the field of education, or projects in the health sector, project in the defense sector, and so on. Move on to the second important classification of projects, that is classification of projects made by Planning Commission of India. Government of India allocates funds for the development of various sectors of the economy. So Planning Commission of India classifies projects based upon different sectors. Following are the different types of projects classified by Planning Commission of India. First one, projects in the field of agriculture and allied sector. As the very name indicates, these are the projects undertaken or developed in agricultural sector. Similarly, projects developed in the irrigation and power sector. We have projects undertaken in the field of industry, or we call them as projects of industry and mining sector, and projects undertaken in transport and communication sector, in service sector or social service sector, and then projects which cannot be classified in any of the sectors so far I have mentioned come under the next category, that is projects in the miscellaneous sector. Projects which are not coming under any of the sectors so far I have mentioned come under the category of miscellaneous sector. Move on to the next classification, that is classification of projects on the basis of techno-economic characteristics. We call them as techno-economic projects. Three groups of classification can be made here. First one, factor intensity oriented classification. On the basis of technique used for producing goods and services, projects can be divided into two types, capital intensive projects and labor intensive projects. Capital intensive projects require huge capital investment because they make use of machineries in the process of production. So projects which make use of machineries in the process of production are called as capital intensive projects, and we have labor intensive projects which make use of human resources or laborers in the process of production, so they require less capital investment. So on the basis of techno-economic characteristics, one of the classifications we make is factor intensity oriented classification, wherein we have two kinds of projects. One is capital intensive project and the second one is labor intensive project. Next, second one, causation oriented classification. Projects may be developed in a particular region mainly due to certain factors or due to certain causes. Certain factors or causes are responsible for the formation of these projects in particular regions. Say for example, a project may be developed in a particular region mainly because of the availability of raw materials in large quantity, or a project may be developed in a particular area mainly because of the availability of skilled laborers, or a project may be developed in a particular region mainly because of the large demand for the product in that region. So these projects come under the category of causation oriented classification. Then the next one is magnitude oriented classification. On the basis of volume of capital you invest in your project, projects can be classified into three types: large scale projects, medium scale projects and small scale projects. Large scale projects require large capital investment and they undertake large scale production. They conduct business on large scale, and medium scale projects require medium amount of capital. They conduct business or they carry out their activities on medium scale. And the third one is small scale projects. They require small capital investment. They undertake their operations on a small scale. So, on the basis of techno-economic characteristics, we find three groups of classification here: factor intensity oriented classification, causation oriented classification and magnitude oriented classification. Move on to the fourth important classification of a project made by all India state financial institutions. Banks and financial institutions advance loans for taking up different types of projects. Before lending funds, before advancing funds, they classify projects into different categories. They are the following. First one is new projects, projects which are newly undertaken. Expansion projects, projects which are undertaken to expand the plant capacity. Third one, modernization projects, projects which are undertaken to modernize the existing project, to change the method of production or to modernize the existing project. A new project may be undertaken, that is called as modernization project. And then diversification project, projects undertaken to extend the business to new lines of business, to extend the business to diversified fields. They are called as diversification projects. And the next one is the fifth classification, that is service projects. As the very name indicates, these projects are service oriented. Their main objective is rendering services and they do not aim at profits. So the following are the different types of service projects. welfare projects. These are the projects undertaken for the welfare of the society. For example, for the welfare of weaker sections of the society, a project may be undertaken, or for the development of a particular community, a project may be undertaken. That is called as welfare project. Service projects are undertaken to render services, say for example, to provide food to the hungry people, or to develop garden in a particular area, or to clean up a particular area. A project may be undertaken. That is called as service project. And research and development projects aim at innovating or inventing something new, developing new species of crops, developing new technique of producing a particular product, developing new breeds of animals. These are all examples for research and development projects. And the fourth one is educational projects. As the very name indicates, these projects aim at providing education, to provide quality education to students. Different types of projects may be developed from time to time. They are called as educational projects. And move on to the next very important classification, that is classification made by project managers. This aspect is very important from the point of view of your examination also. And in the next chapter, we may be required to discuss about these projects in detail. So, about the classification of project by project manager, I will explain you in the next video lecture. Study the aspects so far explained. So, thank you so much, dear students.